Today we're going to talk about the top 10 best performing stocks in 2018 that are listed on the SP 500, and I'm going to share my opinion on every single one of them, and I'll let you know if I'm personally invested in any of them or if I have any plans to invest in them in the future. Let's get started. What's up, everybody? My name is Ale and welcome to my world of stocks. So this is actually going to be part 1 of 2, and the way we're going to do this is we're going to count down from number 10 to number 6, and then tomorrow I'm going to have part 2, and that'll count down from number 5 to number 1. And the reason I'm doing this is because otherwise the video would just be way too long. So we're going to do part 1 today, and either way I'll be sure to link both videos in the comment section to each other. So in case you haven't seen the other video, you should be able to find it in the comment section as long as they're both uploaded. But part 2 will be uploaded tomorrow. Also, if you guys enjoy this video and you'd like to see the top 10 worst performing stocks of 2018 on the SP 500, then let me know and I can actually make that video happen in the future. And just know that all of the information in today's video should be accurate as of December 20th in 2018, but there's still about 11 days left in the year, so some of the information might change a little bit, but for the most part it should be pretty accurate. And finally, in case you're wondering why I'm doing the S&P 500 instead of just the broader market, the reason why is because I didn't want to just kind of list off a bunch of random stocks that nobody's ever heard of. This way, if I do the S&P 500, these are pretty big companies that you probably know about, but there's definitely some on here that I think a lot of you will not be aware of. So there's just going to be a good mixture of stocks that you are aware of and stocks that you're not aware of, and then I'm going to be sharing my opinion on all of them. So I think it's going to be a lot more fun that way. Okay guys, starting with stock number 10, we've got Chipotle Mexican Grill, ticker symbol CMG. Now, they increased in stock price by over 38% year to date, and they currently trade for around $400 per share. Now, if you've never heard of them, they're a Mexican food restaurant that sells burritos, tacos, bowls, and salads, and they're pretty popular actually throughout the entire United States. Although for me personally, I've never really been a huge fan because I like less well-known kind of little Mexican food spots, but a lot of my friends are really into Chipotle, and it's usually a pretty good experience overall. Now, I've never invested in them myself, and they've really gone through some pretty difficult times. I think especially in 2017, I want to say 2017, they had some really bad issues with salmonella. They had some issues where customers recorded rats or mice falling from the ceiling and actually crawling around the restaurant. And that was just horrible PR for Chipotle, so the stock took some pretty big hits as a result. Now, looking at their performance so far in 2018, in the past 3 quarters, they've increased revenue by around 8% year over year, and net income increased by around 9% year over year. So good performance, nothing too crazy or extremely impressive, but just kind of decent performance overall. On top of that, their trailing PE ratio is pretty high at almost 60, but it does get cut in half looking forward at only around 33. Still, their profit margin is less than 4%, and they don't have any dividends. So this isn't really a stock that attracts someone like me, who is mostly either a growth investor or a dividend growth investor. Don't get me wrong, Chipotle's growth is good and it seems to be pretty stable, but it's not anything that is too impressive to me that would really attract a growth investor like myself. And then looking from a value standpoint, they're a little expensive as well, and they also don't pay a dividend. So for those reasons, I'm not really interested in buying any Chipotle stock myself, but it is a stock that I track occasionally, and I know a lot of people do invest in them. Okay guys, next up here we have stocks number 9 and number 8, and the reason I have to combine those two is because it is 21st Century Fox Class A shares, which is ticker symbol FOXA, and then Class B shares, which is ticker symbol FOX. Now, the only difference is that Class B has more voting rights. I know that sounds a little weird because usually Class A would have more voting rights, but for some weird reason, when looking at Fox, Class B actually has more voting rights. So either way, both stocks are up close to 40% year to date, and there's not really much to say here. They really started climbing because of the bidding war between Disney and Comcast to acquire most of Fox assets. Now, I've never invested in Fox myself, so I'm not exactly sure how the deal will affect shareholders, but from what I've understood, from what I've read, and if I understood it correctly, current Fox shareholders should be left owning what is called New Fox, which is basically the remaining assets that are not acquired by Disney, and those will be spun off into basically like this new company and new stock that will be called New Fox, or at least they're referring to it as New Fox. And then those assets will include Fox News, Fox Broadcasting, Fox Business, Fox Television Stations Group, FS1, FS2, and the Big Ten Network. So most of those assets being Fox branded television content, and especially Fox News and Fox Sports. And to my knowledge, I think shareholders will also be allowed to choose between $35 per share from Disney or get 0.2745 Disney shares for every Fox share that they own, because they're basically selling them those assets. And considering that Fox has already stated that they do plan to pay a dividend with the new Fox company, I think shareholders will actually get some pretty decent stuff out of the deal, and that seems to be the reason why the stock is trading as high as around $48 per share. Although to my knowledge, they haven't really specified how large that dividend will be once they get everything settled. Still, because Disney remains my #1 largest stock, I just don't really see much reason to invest in Fox. And on top of that, I'm not really sure how their new business model will work or if it will be effective. It looks like they're really focusing on a lot of cable content. So think of Fox News, Fox Sports, and that's not really stuff that I'm particularly too bullish on. I'm actually pretty bearish on any kind of cable TV stuff, just because of the whole cord cutting movement and stuff like that. But if they're going to be offering that as a like video streaming on demand service, then maybe that kind of changes things up. But either way, I'm just not really too familiar with their whole new business model. I'd like to see what happens going forward. I'd like to see where that dividend is at, and then I can kind of reevaluate and see if Fox is something that appeals to me. But at the current share price of around $48 per share, it's just not something that I'm willing to touch. And that's also because Disney, again, my #1 largest stock. Okay, guys, next up here, we're at stock number 7, and we've got Keysight Technologies, Inc., ticker symbol KEYS. And this is honestly a company that I've never really heard of myself. I think somebody mentioned them once. It might have been a commenter in one of my videos, but I'm not really familiar with this company. Now, either way, year to date, they're up over 40%, and they're up over 85% in the past 5 years. Now, as far as the company and the business goes, this is like a mid to large cap company with a market cap of $10.7 billion. And apparently they assist network companies, especially in the telecom industry, and they help them test their equipment and infrastructure so that they can transition from an R&D phase, like a research and development phase, to the volume manufacturing phase. So kind of helping them progress through their different phases. Now, to be honest, that sounds kind of cool, and it's something that I've never really thought about. And the more you think about this, it makes sense that this type of company would be doing so well in 2018, because what technology and infrastructure is about to revolutionize the telecom industry? 5G. So testing all of that equipment and all that infrastructure might be very lucrative for this type of company. In fact, if we look at their latest quarter, when looking at GAAP results, revenue increased by almost 20% year over year, but their net income actually produced an even bigger loss year over year to over $100 million loss that reflects a non-cash goodwill impairment charge. But if you adjust those results, adjusted net income was positive at $193 million, increasing by 40% year over year. And for the fiscal year, net income increased by over 60%, coming in at $165 million, with revenue jumping up 22%. Looking at their valuation, they have a trailing PE that is very high at almost 70. However, this is a company that is expected to perform very well in the future because they have a forward PE of only 13, which is very low. And when factoring in future growth, their PEG ratio is at less than 1, which is also very good. So this really looks like a growth stock to me, much more than a value stock. And being that I'm a growth investor and they're growing revenues by around 20% or more, this is definitely a stock that I think I need to look deeper into and I need to research some more. Let me know if you guys would like to see a review video on this stock. It's actually looking pretty interesting to me and I wouldn't mind tracking it. Anyway, let me know if you guys would like to see a review video on that. I think it would be a lot of fun. Alright guys, next up here we have the last stock for today and then we'll move on to the other stocks tomorrow. But coming in at number 6, we have Red Hat, ticker symbol RHT, which is up over 45% year to date, and they're currently trading for almost $175 per share. Now, if you watched my video on IBM stock, which I did just very recently, then you know why Red Hat is up so much, and that's because IBM is actually acquiring them for $33 billion or $190 per share, which at the time that they made that offer, Red Hat was trading at only around $116 per share. So some people feel that IBM is definitely overpaying for Red Hat, especially when you consider the big market correction that we're currently going through. Red Hat would probably be a lot cheaper right now if they actually wanted to acquire them now instead of in the past. Having said that, IBM wants Red Hat because they're an open source software company that specializes in software solutions for the enterprise, and they're famous for using Linux in their Red Hat Enterprise Linux software, and they've achieved tremendous growth in cloud computing. In fact, they claim to be the world's leading provider of open source cloud software. And just this past quarter, Red Hat achieved revenue growth of about 14% year over year, although GAAP net income and EPS saw a decline of around 11%. But non-GAAP net income and EPS saw an increase of around 13% and 10% respectively. So IBM is really hoping that Red Hat can provide them some much needed growth and give them a boost in their hybrid cloud offerings that they're really focusing a lot on. But Red Hat is currently trading at $177 per share, whereas IBM offered them $190 per share. So you can see that there's still some skepticism there from investors who fear that maybe this deal might not actually go through. Keep in mind that we still need Red Hat shareholders to approve the deal, and then we also need regulators to approve the deal also. But another concern is that IBM could technically back out of the deal, and don't quote me on this, but I read somewhere that I think they can back out if they pay a pretty big fine of about $1 billion or so. Considering that the deal is for like 33 or 34 billion, taking a hit of 1 billion might not actually be that much, considering that the market is going through some horrible conditions right now. I feel like Red Hat would definitely be trading much lower during these volatile times. But on the other hand, IBM the way that they see it is that they really need some growth, so they really want Red Hat, and they don't want somebody else to scoop up Red Hat. I don't know if maybe Amazon, maybe Google or Apple, some other kind of big cloud computing competitor might want to pick up something like Red Hat. I think IBM wants to just scoop them up before anybody else can get them. But either way, it's kind of an interesting acquisition. And as far as how I feel about Red Hat, I would not, me personally, I'm not going to be buying Red Hat because it just doesn't really seem worth it. Buying them at $177, there is a little bit of profit there because it should eventually get to $190. I think the whole deal is supposed to go through mid to late 2019. But if that deal doesn't go through, Red Hat's stock price has gotta drop way down. They were trading at 116 when they got the IBM offer, and with these volatile conditions, you gotta assume that Red Hat would probably be even lower. So that's a big drop in your stock price if you're investing now. So that's obviously a reason why they're so far away from that 190, about like $13 away from that. Okay guys, so those are stocks number 10 to number 6. Tomorrow we'll go through number 5 to number 1, and those will be kind of fun to look at, especially number 1. Not going to spoil anything, but I think it'll be fun to talk about those. Anyway, thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed the video, make sure you hit the like button. It really helps the channel survive, and I really appreciate all the support, guys. You guys are awesome. Let me know how you feel about any of these stocks, and I don't know, I guess that's about it. Stay safe out there. I'll catch you guys later. Take care. Bye-bye.